Hello again, fight fans. Thank you so much for coming back for one of my preview and prediction videos. I'm of course Flying Brian, and if you find any of my content to be useful, please give the video a thumbs up and also subscribe to the channel. That would really help me out a lot. My goal for thumbs up on this video is going to be 7. Thank you so much in advance for helping me reach that goal. So we're going to talk about the co-main event, UFC Fight Night 85, hashtag UFC Brisbane. We've got Hector Lombard versus Neil Gumby Magny. No, Gumby isn't Neil's real nickname, but that's what I've dubbed him, and I think that it should stick. And Showweather is one of, if not the worst nickname in mixed martial arts. Beast in 25-8 is probably the worst, but Showweather is right up there in my opinion. So I'm going to talk about each fighter individually, then I'll talk about the tail of the tape, and I'll get to my pick/prediction toward the end of the video. I will of course put a link in the description box below that you can click and go right to the pick if you want to skip all of that other nonsense. Let's start with Hector Lombard. He had a storied mixed martial arts career after being a Olympic contestant in judo for Cuba back in 2000. He didn't medal, but still just being the Olympic representative for Cuba is pretty neat in itself. His mixed martial arts record is 34-4 with 1 draw and 2 no contest. He fought Gegard Mousasi way back in 2006 in Pride in a welterweight fight, but Pride's welterweight division was 183 pounds. Hector Lombard is actually undefeated at 170 pounds, but before he dropped down to that weight class in the UFC, he was the Bellator middleweight champion, and he also competed at 205 pounds. Now going over to Neil Magny, he's fought at welterweight for the majority of his career. He had a pretty long win streak in UFC. He's a pretty young guy, and he's still getting better and better all of the time. He's got the most reach of almost anybody in the entire sport next to Johnny Bones Jones with an 80-inch reach. Of course, John Jones has an 84-inch reach. So let's go over the tail of the tape. Just a few things that I'm going to pluck from it that I think are important. First of all, let's just talk about the reach right away. Hector Lombard's reach is 71 inches. Neil Magny's is 80. That's a 9-inch reach advantage. A person that has a 6.5 plus inch reach advantage wins 65% of the time. The next thing that I want to talk about, Neil Magny is 9 years or 8 or 9 years younger than Hector Lombard, and a person with that much of an age advantage wins also 60 to 70% of the time. Hector Lombard has sat out for more than 12 months, and a person who has sat out for 12 or more months only wins 40% of the time. And then also, Hector Lombard is 38 years old, and a person who is 38 years old only wins 35 to 40% of the time. Going down in the tail of the tape, let's go to the striking department. Neil Magny lands more strikes per minute, and he also absorbs less strikes per minute. Now let's drop down into the grappling section of the tail of the tape. Of course, with Hector Lombard being an Olympic judo representative for Cuba, he's going to have the grappling advantage in this fight. He defends almost every single takedown attempted at him. Around 70% of the takedowns defended. Neil Magny's no slouch in this department. He averages more takedowns per 15-minute fight than Hector Lombard. That right there is interesting in itself. So let's talk about what I think about this fight and how these two match up against each other. I already mentioned the tail of the tape, where they're going to be divided there, the reach, the age, all of that jazz. But Hector Lombard, his striking is really, really powerful, and he doesn't use much movement. He's mostly flat-footed, and he throws wild looping punches. Maybe not that wild, but they are fast, and most of them are looping. When he fought Josh Berkman, it wasn't until the 3rd round when he started throwing straight punches. Most of them, he'd throw like a hook, uppercut, a weird looping overhand right. Of course, Hector Lombard is going to be fighting out of a southpaw stance. Where he really shines, though, is with the powerful takedowns. He only landed 1 takedown, I think, against Josh Berkman, and that was late in the fight. A lot of times, Hector Lombard has been criticized for his cardio because he's so densely muscled, but in the Josh Berkman fight, he seemed to really turn it on as that fight went on. Of course, Josh Berkman wasn't pushing the pace, but that right there kind of shut people up about his cardio. He's going to use some judo, throw takedowns. He also uses some ankle picks. He'll catch a kick and then take you down from there. Very dynamic takedowns. This guy, very powerful in all aspects of mixed martial arts. He doesn't have a very dynamic striking attack, but his strikes are powerful. Neil Magny, of course, is going to need to keep the distance on Hector Lombard so Lombard can't get in on those takedowns. Neil Magny throws a push kick from his back foot sometimes to keep that range. He really uses the front jab to keep a lot of range, and he uses a lot of footwork. He's pretty light on his feet. He moves quite a bit. Now, his striking attack isn't that much more diverse than Hector Lombard's, but in terms of dynamism in the striking department, I'm giving the edge to Neil Magny. One thing that we need to talk about is Neil Magny's cardio. When he fought Kelvin Gastelum, on short notice, mind you, Neil had some pretty solid cardio in that fight as well. And I picked this fight wrong. I thought that Kelvin Gastelum was going to be able to get Neil Magny down early because prior to that, Neil Magny had fought Damian Maia and really got obliterated in the grappling department. Of course, Damian Maia is a next level jiu-jitsu guy, but I thought that Kelvin Gastelum was going to be able to get him down and control him for the majority of that fight, possibly go to a decision, but I was completely wrong. Early on in that fight, Kelvin would go for a takedown and Neil would defend it. One time in that fight, Kelvin went for a takedown. Neil had a pretty solid sprawl. He got that front headlock, and then he used his left leg to hook a leg of Kelvin Gastelum and do a trip from a front headlock. It was really interesting. So not only does Neil Magny use his length as a striking advantage at times, but he also uses it in a grappling advantage. Now, also in that fight, we need to talk about how Neil's length kind of played against him a little bit. He had the back of Kelvin Gastelum, and he was looking for a rear naked choke, but because Neil was going for the rear naked choke like around his belly button where Kelvin's neck was, he wasn't able to get, enough squeeze on Kelvin to be able to submit him. If his neck was up higher, I think that Neil would have tapped him out, but because of the length of Neil's body and his limbs, he was unable to secure a submission in that fight. But what I want to pull from that one is how great Neil's grappling was in that fight. I want to compare Kelvin Gastelum with Hector Lombard. Both of them are short. Both of them, their strikes are kind of short because their arms are pretty short. They got these wide shoulders. Of course, Hector's way more densely muscled than Kelvin Gastelum. But I think that since Neil did such a great job with the wrestler of Kelvin Gastelum, of course, Kelvin's grappling is different than Hector's, wrestling versus judo. But I think that because Neil did such a great job in that fight, I think that he's going to have some success either defending the takedowns in this fight against Hector Lombard, or possibly if they could get into a clinch situation, Neil's really good at wrapping those super long arms around his opponent and then able to get like a body lock takedown or putting him up and taking him down. You don't really want to hang out too much on the ground with Hector Lombard because if he gets on top of you, he can really rain the ground and pound. But now, here is my pick for this fight. All of those stats that I mentioned, the reach advantage for Neil Magny, the youth advantage for Neil Magny, the fact that Hector hasn't fought in a really long time, and of course he has not fought in a long time because of a PED suspension, we gotta question how he's going to look in this fight. A lot of people post USADA, I won't name any names specifically, but haven't looked the best since USADA has been implemented. Perhaps, I'm not suggesting much here, maybe I am, but perhaps Hector won't look that great in this fight because of post-USADA stuff. And then also, Hector's 38 years old and had a lengthy mixed martial arts career already. I'm picking Neil Magny to win a decision here. Perhaps I mentioned that Hector's cardio was good against Josh Berkman, but I said that Josh Berkman was not pushing the pace whatsoever on Hector Lombard. Neil Magny's going to push the pace. He's going to have the advantage and the dynamism of the striking advantage in this fight. I feel like Neil Magny wins the first 2 rounds and goes to a 29-28 decision. On my UFC pick'em, I have Neil Magny by decision because I don't think that either guy gets a finish here. I wouldn't put either one of them on your DraftKings team. Of course, I will put a link in the description box below for you to play UFC pick'em with me. That's pretty much it for this video. Let me know who you are picking in the comment section down below. And once again, please give the video a thumbs up. My goal is just 7. Thank you so much in advance for helping me get that goal and for checking out my video. I will see you on my full fight card preview prediction video for UFC Fight Night 85. Namaste.